mall. Should I go back out there and try and find the guy, or? Okay.
He should have been here.
Do you want me to go see if he's at the front door? I wouldn't know what he looks like.
Stoner guy, shorts.
No?
Ladies and gentlemen, and gentlemanly ladies, on this week's On the Rocks, we chat with Tony Award winner Alice Ripley with my guest co-host, Broadway World's Ben Rimalower, and me, your favorite host with the sassy most. Raise a glass and let the drinks begin.
Thank you for being
Boulevard.
Life is a banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death.
I'd like to propose a toast.
This is On the Rocks with Alexander, where I drink with your favorite celebrities as we talk about fashion, entertainment, pop culture, reality TV, and, well, that's about it. So pop a cork, lean back, and raise a glass to On the Rocks.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Lord have mercy, buttons and bows and pantyhose. On the Rocks podcast, a place where we're too glam to give a damn. Okay, for all of us LA peeps, we were treated by a big surprise this last weekend by an appearance of a Lady Gaga at the Abbey, the world-famous Abbey in West Hollywood. It was fabulous, but it brings me up to my pet peeve of the week. Everybody took their own pictures and video of poor Lady Gaga going to get her key to the city, whatnot. And nobody was really that close because of her security. So every picture of poor Lady Gaga was so awful. It was like grainy. It was from a weird angle. And this is like my pet peeve with like celebrities, especially when they die. Everybody posts their picture of them and a celebrity that they bothered at the airport or getting a donut or just getting out of their car. Let celebrities be celebrities and only post a good picture if they look good, especially if you're not friends with them. I mean, we're talking to two people on the show today that have earned every one of their fabulous pictures with other fabulous people. They deserve those celebrity pictures. But if you're off the street, I mean, God bless it. God bless it. Let's treat our celebrities with some dignity. All right, that was my pet peeve for the week. Like us on Twitter and Instagram at On The Rocks On Air and on Facebook On The Rocks Radio Show. Send me an email. Book me for a wedding, funeral, quinceañera, bris. I don't care. Or a Golden Girls murder mystery party if you must. Right, Ben? I'll be there at info@ontherocksradioshow.com. The show is presented by Straw Hut Media. You can watch and or listen to our almost 250 episodes at ontherocksradioshow.com. Hello to our listeners around the nation on every major podcast platform, on Facebook Watch, and on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, on the Outlet.tv app. Share, subscribe, leave a comment, leave your phone number. I'm single. Kurt, do you have a pun for us?
Of course I have a pun for you.
Make it fast. We have a Tony Award winner here.
Okay, I'll try to make it fast.
Okay.
Did I tell you that someone threw a soda at me the other day?
You can believe it?
No, luckily it was a soft drink.
Oh, my Lord, I don't even know what to do with that. Well, anyway, on that note, let me welcome my guest co-host today, hot from the Big Apple and no stranger to On the Rocks, Mr. Ben Rimalower is best known as the author and star of the long-running solo plays Patty Issues and Bad with Money, as well as from his many appearances on The Real Housewives of New York City as Countess Luann's cabaret director. He hosts the Broadway podcast network Broadway World Co-Productions, Ben Rimalower's Broken Records, and next year, some year, he has befriended most of Broadway's elite divas, and he is a diva himself. Please welcome back to the show, Mr. Ben Rimalower.
Thank you for unmuting me. I love that you used that picture of my face on Patti LuPone in war paint.
It looks so good, though. Like, I believe it. Like, I believe that that's how you wake up and that's how you go. I mean, that's too good. Like, that is some good work.
I would love that outfit, and it does really.
It does. I'm like, I believe it. I believe it. Okay, Ben, we're just going to get right to it. Some of the most interesting conversation and messages I received was from your last visit here when we talked with Tony Award-winning producer Adam Epstein, where we debated Patti LuPone. We talked about the role of a diva. We talked about Lloyd Webber versus... We debated Patti LuPone. We talked about Andrew Lloyd Webber versus Stephen Sondheim. We know and love you for your opinionated opinions. That's a new phrase, your opinionated opinions. But you also write and represent Broadway World and Playbill. Do you ever get any feedback from them saying, hey, calm down your opinions. We write about all these people?
Yeah, I got feedback from Playbill. They stopped hiring me to write articles.
Are you serious?
That was I mean, I think that they changed. I don't think they hire so many freelancers now as they used to. But, I don't know. All these websites are the same. They don't care what you say. They want you to get clicks. I mean, I could have been ruder and more opinionated if I wrote more about the twinks in Heathers the Musical and less about Karen Morrow and Leslie Uggams, but that's not what I wanted to talk about.
Well, it's very interesting, and with theater coming back, I understand we should be supportive of everything, but because you have an opinion about a certain performer or a play, doesn't mean that you're a rude person or that you're, personally attacking. When you go see a movie, you have an opinion. You like it or you don't. Why? And I believe if you have a constructive opinion, you should be able to share that without being attacked for being a hater.
I don't know. I think I probably feel that way, but when I hear you say it, I feel like you're wrong and I should change my behavior.
Maybe we all need to change our behavior. Let's come out of this just loving everything. Speaking of loving everything, we have to talk about Music Man coming to Broadway. Everybody's like, oh, are you going to get your tickets? I can get you tickets. We have Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster coming for Music Man. I've had Shirley Jones on the show. Robert Preston to me is, the ultimate Harold Hill. Now we have a Hollywood name coming back to Broadway. They're going to sell tickets because of the name. But again, we have Hollywood kind of representing Broadway, and that's where the buzz is. Are you excited about Music Man?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually, I was going to say I've never seen it on stage, but I was the assistant director on a middle school production.
Oh.
I don't know if that counts, but I'm a huge fan of the cast album. I did not see the revival with Craig Bierko and Rebecca Luker, and of course I'm a fan of the movie. And Hugh Jackman, I mean, his performance in The Boy from Oz was one of the most exciting things I've ever seen on Broadway. People are having their opinions about Sutton Foster because she's not a soprano or whatever, and that she's not my favorite in general. But I don't know. I could see her as that character. I mean, and she's certainly a very charismatic and compelling Broadway star. I mean, I'm pretty excited, and and neither Hugh nor Sutton is gonna do a rinky-dink production of The Music Man. I mean, I feel like, I don't know. We'll see. It could go either way, but I'm excited to see it.
The biggest thing I'm nervous about is that other people will start singing Shapoopy for their audition song, and then there I go. There goes my go-to song.
I'm
Shapoopy.
sure your version will always be, what do they say, sui genre.
Yeah, well, I lived the life of Buddy Hackett towards the end of his life. Not with the fame, of course, but cheers. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are speaking with somebody that I have followed in all the many different plays, musicals, on screen, and so excited to talk to Tony Award winner Alice Ripley when we come back. All right, and we're back. That's how we do it here. Let me introduce Alice Ripley, actress, singer, songwriter, mixed media artist, known in particular for her various roles on Broadway musicals, including the Pulitzer Prize-winning Next to Normal, which she won the Tony Award, by the way, and Sideshow. Other roles include Tommy, Sunset Boulevard, Les Miserables, The Rocky Horror Show, American Psycho. She has released albums with her band Ripley, and we have seen her on screen in Girl Boss, Blue Bloods, in the finale of 30 Rock, playing herself, by the way, and in the film Sugar. She is hot off of returning to live performances with her very recent appearance at Green Room 42 in NYC, and her project The Waves in Quarantine is an adaptation of Virginia Woolf's The Waves, conceived by Raul Esparza and Lisa Peterson, and it's an on-screen theatrical experiment in 6 movements. It celebrates music and intimacy in unexpected places, and it's on demand. This is the last week you can actually see it, so please look that up, Waves in Quarantine. On this episode, we're going to get a sneak peek of her portrayal of Heidi Fleiss for the concept album Little Black Book, a musical about the life and times of Miss Heidi Fleiss. She will also reprise her role as Trisha Lee in the film adaptation of The Pink Unicorn. P.S. The unicorn is the emoji that she loves to use, by the way. Little known fact. Please welcome the Alice Ripley.
I'm taking note that that's the I didn't know that was the emoji that I like to use.
Oh, hey, it was in an article. I grabbed that little tidbit. I'm like, you said that to somewhere, and I grabbed it.
I'm going to give you a hard time all night, so get used to it.
Oh, girl, I am ready for it. You know, Ripley, believe it or not, I am here for it and living it. We have a lot to chat about, but what I really want to chat about is your early years. You know, I've seen a lot of interviews that you've done on your Broadway production, but I want to talk about, you know, where did Alice Ripley come from? Like, what kind of girl were you? Were you popular in school? And I know that you moved around a lot. You're a Cali girl to Ohio, back to Cali, then to New York. Where do you consider your stomping grounds?
I think there are several cities that try to claim me.
Rightfully so.
I
They're like,
try to claim them. Like, I know I spent my formative years in Cleveland, but I was born in Northern California. San Diego tries to claim me too. But, you know, nobody can claim me. I'm a free spirit. I'm unowned.
I love.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of known to myself for always being the new kid and traveling, moving around a lot as a kid and traveling a lot as an adult too.
You have 10 siblings. How does one kind of form their identity and kind of their own personality in such a full house?
Well, I don't think it's any different than any other family as far as that part of it goes. If anything, it's more clear what your role is because you can see what your role isn't, what everybody else has chosen to do. You tend to take something that's maybe your own thing. So it's maybe more clear to define who you are. It's more easy to define who you are when you have a big family. Because somebody else already does that, so you can't do that thing. You got to find your own thing.
Oh, I guess it's like finding your own role in like a play when some of it's pre-cast. You're like, okay, this is my role. I come from an only child family, so all the attention was me, and God knows how I ended up.
Well, you know what I mean. I think birth order does definitely affect everything. So yeah, I think I've always been fascinated by my friends who are only children. Have the only child experience. It's been, you know, it is different than what I had in a lot of ways.
Where are you in the birth order, Alice?
I'm the middle.
All right.
I'm right in the middle, like the spoke of, like the hub of everything.
I bet.
Now, what kind of roles were you playing in high school and in college? Like, what were the plays that were your first formative roles?
Well, it's funny because The Music Man was really an important show to me. I mean, Emily Skinner's really, my friend Emily, she's the walking musical theater encyclopedia. So when I want to know an answer, I ask her about that. But I do have my own relationship with some musical theater growing up. And The Music Man was definitely an important show to me because I was the middle child of 11 kids. I didn't have my own socks and underwear till I was 25.
Oh, my Lord.
And I'm not joking. It's like, you know, I'm trying to be funny these days, but that's actually real. So, but you know, all of that comes with, we didn't know that we didn't have our own socks and underwear.
That was just a part of life.
We had love. We definitely did. We didn't know that we were missing anything.
Yeah. Well, and
what was the rest of the question there? I just got lost in nostalgia for a minute.
What roles do you remember playing in your very first, like in high school?
Oh, yeah. So that's why I brought up The Music Man. That was what I had as far as resource goes. You know, we had an encyclopedia that had F, G, H, M, and P. And that was it. All the rest of the volumes were missing. We didn't have the internet when I was a kid. So what I had as far as music resource goes in Dayton, Ohio, which is where I spent my high school years, was my parents' record collection. And, you know, they had a little bit of everything, and there was a little bit of musical theater in there. And Jacques Brel was one of the records that had a big influence on me. And I saw the show, and The Music Man with Robert Preston and Shirley Jones. Am I right about that? Or
Yes, you definitely are.
So, and Robert Preston, because the world is run this way, he actually did the Broadway show, right? And then he did
Yes.
the movie.
Yes.
But who did the Broadway? Barbara Cook?
Barbara Cook. Yep.
So, she wasn't allowed to go to the movie, but he was. But we don't need to talk about how skewed that is.
Wow.
Everybody that's fighting for their rights right now, I want to say you can get behind women because we've been doing it since Eve took the fall for everything. So, but anyway, the Music Man, it is interesting, why somebody wants to tell that story again right now, because it can't be updated and it's an antiquated story. So that's Alice Ripley's opinion about it. But the Music Man definitely had a huge influence on me growing up, and we did it in high school. And I played Marion.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you did.
And, I did have an ingenue phase for a few years where I was a real soprano. I actually studied vocal performance in college. That was my major. I wanted to study acting, but they didn't have musical theater majors when I started college, and halfway through college I transferred to find that musical theater major. But anyway, Music Man was one of my first roles. That's the answer to your question, right? Yes. So it's interesting that you brought up Music Man earlier, and I think it's fascinating that story somehow still needs to be told. I don't know how or why.
It is very interesting. The theme, it's very misogynistic. This strong woman, single mother, changes her whole view of life and morality because she falls in love with a swindler. Somebody swindles a whole town with flashy kind of bravado, which we just got out of that as a nation. So it is kind of, and it's like, oh, and at the end everybody is happy and the swindler gets away with it. I mean, you could look at it like that. I mean, that's...
I don't think people remember. I just watched the movie for the first time in probably 30 years.
Wow.
A couple months ago. And I was like, oh shit, this is extremely sexist and so really, disgusting the way the town treats her by the assumption that she might have done something that their, morality would frown upon. And, and of course, Marion is like the most moral, actually, like,
she is
person in the whole town. But that's their skewed, horrible views of the way the boxes they put women into. But I will say, and, I preface it by saying this is not me making some kind of like Sutton Foster overture, because, I'm not a fan. Unlike
don't write hate mail. We don't need that. We're just having a salon here.
Well, but what I'm saying is
a definitive conversation.
What I'm saying is
the conversation.
But what I will say for Sutton though is that there's no world where Sutton's in rehearsal with that script and not approaching that issue with all of her intelligence and modern sensibility and, politics. And I don't think she's going to like roll over and just do it like, millions of women have done in stock since the show was written, like every high school girl that played Marion. I mean, I think I have a feeling they're having a lot of conversations, and God knows what the Meredith Willson estate, or, I don't know if they're going to succeed. They could ruin the show, or they could do something that doesn't work or whatever. But I do think that they will approach that issue with the sensibility that we all have, looking at it going, ugh. Right? No?
Yeah, I mean, these conversations do have to be had, and you're right. Anybody that's aware or woke is from the producers to the actors. You're right. It has to have a conversation. So it'll be very interesting to see how the script has changed, if it has, or what their take is.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be the script. I mean, there's ways that I don't know. Maybe it's hopeless. I don't have the answer, but there are times when a script can be not changed, and the way it's approached and the tone, and it, is given a completely different attitude that makes it work. I don't know if that's possible here. I don't know, but I am very curious to see what they do with it, and maybe we'll all walk away going, why the hell did they have to tell that story now? This is stupid. I mean, and that very well may be how we feel, but.
Oh Lord.
I don't think it's fair to make a judgment yet, though. I mean, it's fair to ask the question that you don't know, you're curious as to why. I think it's completely within the realm of, what we need to do. But that doesn't mean that we've made a decision. I mean, I've never seen anything that either of those lead actors have had. I've never seen anything that hasn't been fantastic.
Right.
that Hugh or Sutton has done. So it's like, the riffraff that wants to talk, it's like, well, what have you done lately? I want to say to them.
Right.
It's not fair to decision. Really, what have you done? Are you starring in a new Broadway show? Whatever it is, the answer is going to be no.
Yeah.
And so, like, let's at least be fair enough to say, I have never seen Sutton be anything but amazing. She is always incredible. So why not at least give her a chance? I mean, but I'm the first one to say, yeah, okay, I'm interested to see why that story still needs to be told, because the swindler part isn't the thing that gets to me. It's you need a man to complete you is that's like, and you can't get away from that. That's what the script's about. That's what, Mrs. Peru sings a song all about that. And so did Marion sings at least 2 songs about that. I want to get, I would happy to get married. Somebody want to get married again? I have nothing against marriage or like wanting a relationship, but to make that be like the main part of a character is something that you do in 1981. Really, I mean, it's changed. The world's changed a lot since then. So it's interesting to me because that's the part that stands out to me. I'm not trying to trash anybody. It's the opposite. I think that we need to remain just like any show, remain excited and enthusiastic about what's happening, even after you see it, We don't need any more critics, that's for sure.
Well, and how exciting that we're talking about theater that's actually going to be seen, back in the theaters with a live audience. Alice, you literally just came off of a live performance back into the real world. What was that like, stepping on stage for the first time in forever?
I mean, it wasn't really... it wasn't that big a deal. I guess I don't know. I guess it's so natural to be there. I've done it for so many decades that and I kept singing all year and thinking about what my next gig was. And I did 2 live gigs last year, but they were outside. I crave being in a company. I crave being a part of a company that works on a show long term for lots of reasons, but that's different than booking yourself in a concert. So if I were going to start in a new company on Broadway or a company, that would be a different conversation about, that would be something that would be new for me. Like, wow, it's been a while since I felt like I was a member of a company. Concerts and things like that, I'm kind of always doing. So having said all that, it was definitely unique to be on stage and have the whole audience, everybody had a mask on their face. The way things are going today, it kind of feels like a really important thing is to stay in touch with the process and respectful of the process of coming out of the last year that we had. However we felt about the year, because everybody had their own opinion. But to come out of it, I think that there's a layered process, whether you're taking the layers away or adding them on, that we're all going through, and that has to do with our work as well, and the conversations like what we've had so far. And it's important to allow for everybody's process. Do you know what I mean? To allow for everybody to experience it and not to make judgments too quickly. I think the people that make judgments too quickly, they really stand out now. Are you still there? I felt like I lost you.
Yeah, no, I'm enthralled by what you're saying. No.
So, I mean, I like the idea of a salon where you air ideas and you give an idea a chance to fly.
Yeah.
And maybe that's someone's opinion. And so it's not about trashing something or discounting something or even taking teams or taking sides.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I like to think of the community as we're all we're on stage or we're in the audience, and then we switch places. Sometimes when we do summer stock, we're in the basement making French seams for Once Upon a Mattress, or we're on stage, painting the set for Death Trap, and take turns, and we sometimes we're in the audience. And I think it's important to always keep in touch with that, because that way we're allowed to have some kind of a salon like this where we air ideas. And I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about ideas like what we've said so far. It doesn't have to be, negative. It can just be ideas.
Well,
It can be negative ideas.
Well, it's funny because I think with social media taking off, especially during COVID, everybody had nothing else to do but get on social media. And, the comments that kind of stick out are the funny one-liners that tend to be a little bit mean, or people are just so quick to judge on social media because I call them keyboard warriors, where they have these big, opinions, or they're able to tear somebody down so easily because they're just typing on their phone in a quick moment to try to be funny. But I think it's kind of infiltrated kind of how critics have talked about projects and how we talk to each other. And so, Alice, when you come in, with this kind of positive spin of a salon type, it kind of, you have to kind of take a moment and kind of ignore what's happening on social media. Unfortunately, it's really infiltrated how we talk to each other as people, but also how the arts are portrayed with fans, especially.
Yeah, I think this subject's interesting. I think it's worth talking about for a few minutes. And, if you look at, if I look at my Facebook page, one of the things in my description is this is conjecture. I'm not a news source. I'm not trying to be a news source. But at the same time, I'm not going to pretend like I'm not human. And I'm also somebody who's interested in social media as opposed to doesn't want anything to do with it.
Right.
I'm not one of those people. So I have to find a balance. I've been there. I've acted out and said things on social media. And then I've apologized for it. If somebody doesn't believe my apology, it's not my problem to control what somebody thinks, But we have to, if we act from our heart, then, you just take one step at a time. I think that Facebook is maybe really good. It's kind of great right now because I think people are really grateful for being out of the HE double toothpicks that we were in for a while. It felt like hell. So, we're using this chance to encourage each other and to give on Tuesdays, and to this last year, I give randomly directly to artists. And by the way, you can still do that. You don't have to stop just because 2020 is over. Yes, it's great to give to the organizations that support us, but it's also great to give right to the artist. Everybody has a Venmo. I didn't have Venmo before the pandemic started. Now I do. Thank God I do. Because people want to support you that way, whether they want to engage you for what you do, one of the many multi-hyphenate things that you might do, or you're going to start a new business, or you turns into a savings or something. Venmo is kind of amazing for us self-employed freelancers. So I highly recommend it. And so everybody's got one. So, next time you want to wish that you could spend money on the arts, just choose your favorite artist. And I mean, not just actors, anybody in the arts, anyone, including teachers, students. Send money to a scientist if you think that they had a hard year. Scientist, just send them $15-$20. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. But that's the price of a metro.
It's a meal, yeah, and it's a meal for that people needed very much.
Back if you have to, and I think that's something I learned last year is there is room for giving to people that need help, whether it's for services for somebody that passed, or rent, which we all need, because it's ridiculous what they charge for rent. It's ridiculous what them. We can't even say they and them anymore. We're talking about them. It makes you think. We've had to kind of really look at that conversation. How language has changed over the past couple of years. And you mentioned the movie that I just finished making, Pink Unicorn. My friends, the Holmdel Theater, and Michael Kushner was our DP, and Amy Jones directed, and Colleen Cook and Liz Fleming are our production team. And I'm telling you, this is really interesting. What we've needed to learn how to do, those of us who work mostly on the stage, over the last year, we didn't have that. And for a lot of people, they think that what we do is a hobby. And so once the crisis part is over, they kind of maybe people sometimes forget about live performers until they want their lives to be changed by what we spend our lives owning and getting ready for. And so that's what I feel like, you know, all of us probably, you've either done it or you haven't done it this last year, is to just get ready. And even if it means getting ready, just means keeping your place clean, keeping yourself fed, and staring at the wall and waiting for somebody to say, okay, will you come play with us? That's enough. To keep yourself alive has been enough, because that's been enough of the struggle. You know, we don't have the benefit of getting that Thursday check deposited into the bank every week unless we're in a long-term show, meaning Broadway. You know, now I could bitch about this all night. I don't want to bitch, but like, you know, it's all great that that PBS and like people are writing about us now. Like people are writing about us and doing stories about how we're coming back now, meaning the arts. Well, don't you think it's a little bit late? Doesn't it feel a little bit like now we're their story? I mean, it's never felt this so insincere to me to see stories about how we're coming back. Well, where the hell were you last August? Well, I'm serious. And, you know, this isn't just me. As a matter of fact, I'm a pacifist, and I'm very detached. I only played a crazy character. And she wasn't even crazy. She was broken. You know, that was a character I played. It takes a lot for me to get worked up.
Well, it's very interesting.
It does, but like, where the hell? Where are unions right now? Where's equity?
Well, and I think
they're non-existent.
And artists, I think, are the last group of people taken care of. You know, we, you know, but during COVID, everybody
we take care of ourselves. That's why.
Well, yes, but during COVID, everybody was at home watching stuff on TV. Well, all of that stuff on streaming, even theater that was streaming from actors' homes or the streaming concerts, that was all entertainment provided by artists. Artist is what I believe kept everybody sane during COVID, because everybody was just at home saturating content. No matter what kind of artist you were, that's how we survived.
I mean, I just got my hair done.
It looks fabulous.
And this shirt, somebody created these earrings. Like, this is not just something that just grows on a freaking tree. The cool pillow that you get from IKEA, you know, whatever. People tease me about how much I appreciate IKEA, but I do, because they think about things like aesthetic for the whole world. I mean, look, I'm not trying to do a commercial for them, but I guess my point is that, you know, every single thing that all of us see every day was, unless it's in nature. And if it's in nature, if it's in rose, it applies to that too. Was somebody's idea.
Alice,
if
can
it's
I
in
ask
nature
you?
and they charge you to go look at it, it's someone's idea. And so that's all you need to know.
Going back to what you said about equity, you know, I'm mostly a writer and director, and performing is something I've only branched out. I'm not in the union, and I've heard a lot of sort of like grumbling and buzz about equity the last, you know, 6 months or so. What is it that equity's not doing in this moment that they should be doing?
All I know, Ben, is that, and I'm like everybody else, every day I get at least one email from SAG. At least one. And they're all year they've been about like, look, I know they're just trying to help, and I don't want anybody to hate me, you know, believe me, but I'm going to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Because Robert Lapone was the one who said years ago, you got to own it, Alice. I mean, I'm going to tell the truth. I'm not going to pretend like I don't notice these things.
Yeah.
Okay, and if I'm the only one, I don't care. I don't care what people think about me either. You know,
I think it's a common.
I'm your best friend, is what I would say to somebody who wants.
I think you're not alone at all. I think a lot of people are. I just don't, as someone who's not a member of Equity or SAG, I'm not clear. And
well, anyway, I mean, I get an email every day from SAG about, you know, like networking, like stuff that doesn't apply to how am I going to pay my rent now, yesterday.
Yeah.
Like I got help from the state this month. What about tomorrow? It really is like that. People are still moving out. Like, you know, it is the have and have nots, you guys. People moved out of the city, y'all. I can't say you guys anymore. My hallway was empty except for me. And now I've got 2 people that just bought places. There's a place in my neighborhood where, you know, businesses were shutting down, right? Long-term businesses. And then in the same year, some business, which isn't the one that I would expect to, like bought another like now there's 2 of these 2 blocks away, 2 of these little coffee shops. It's like, wow.
But you're saying
that's incredible. Like it's like you know, it's like we're all going down, and it's like the Titanic. Like who can get to the end of the boat, the right end of the boat.
But you're saying both equity and SAG, both the theater as well as the film and television actors unions, neither have done what they should have done.
I guess what I'm saying is like the SAG after emails that we get, and I know I speak for everybody now. This is the thing, and I'm just going to do it. You don't agree with me, then I don't speak for you. Right. But I'm telling you, I never get emails from equity. Never. Not all year did I get an email from somebody saying, "Okay, guys, we know this is tough.
Hang in there.
We're so sorry that the city's ignoring us and no one's talking about artists." You go through, okay, now I'm getting pissed. Okay, now Alice is getting pissed because you go through, let's say you do apply for unemployment. Let's say you take the census. Let's say you fill out anything that has to do with official government stuff. Is there a box to check for artists? Hell no, there isn't. It's other. It's other.
Yeah.
Okay? When we went to get our vaccinations, and I was suddenly of the age where I could qualify, I took that freaking test and I fell off the edge. I did not qualify because what I do for a living is not considered to be public facing. You've got to be kidding me. What do I do then? I sit in the closet and talk to the audience remotely? I'm can you tell I'm still pissed?
There's a lot to be angry about, though.
For myself, okay? The fact that we still take care of ourselves, that yes, we can come through 9/11 and still and Hamilton can exist, or next to normal can happen after that kind of devastation. That's because we live in a bubble and we take care of ourselves. And that's the way it's always been as individual people coming from our original family environments. And yes, I'm talking for everybody, every student I've ever taught this year, to the people that are in the community together, whether you're in a cast or you're in a union or you're in the audience or you're backstage in a chorus room together. All we ask is for people to notice that we matter. And I'm talking for everybody right now because I didn't intend on getting all hot right now. I don't want this part of me to be seen, because I've been taught that I should be ashamed of myself when I'm speaking the truth loudly for everybody. But you know what? I don't care what people think about me anymore. I don't care.
Well, but Alice, you're
plenty of people that I do speak for.
Well, that's exactly it. So somebody who, an actor who has been
a morale thing from. I just wanted equity to send us some. I don't care about logistics and business and facts. I want something that cares about our heart, from our union that we make run. Okay? And I know they struggled too. Yes, they struggled last year too, but they still had a job to go to. Did they not? And then they send us bills for the dues.
Yeah, that was the biggest outrage that I know from my circle of friends is, you know,
I mean, if you're going to do that, at least say, look, well, we know that this could be hard for some of you. Do they think that we live in the closet in a bubble too? I mean, I am just beside myself still. I'm still beside myself the way that we were ignored by the equity, not by SAG in the same way. But, you know, SAG is not equity. That's why we have 2 unions.
See, you know, I think what pissed me off for years, and I think I finally sort of came out of it, was this dirty little secret about the theater, which is that everybody, for the 99% of the people working in theater in New York at least, either have a trust fund or a sugar daddy or a day job, you know, and nobody talks about it. I mean, I really, I loved when
I mean, that's a whole lot of rich actors, because you know how many actors there are? And by the way, 95% of us are unemployed at any given moment. Boy, they have to tell you that in college.
No,
so how does that translate?
Yeah.
You're unemployed because you're rich?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, How about all the people who didn't become actors because they needed a backup job?
Yeah.
Now that doesn't compute.
Yeah.
It's because we're taken for granted because people don't understand that the Wright brothers created a miracle.
Yeah.
And people thought they were crazy. They were outcasts in society. Mothers would shield their children. Okay, this is a fact. I've talked to these actual mothers. I have interviews. Okay, if you want to know the facts. No. Mothers would say, don't look at those crazy men. And look what they did. Can you imagine?
But
if we didn't have what they created.
But I think that the change starts with people like us, people like you saying like what you're saying right now. You know, for years, I didn't want to admit on social media that I had a day job because I wanted to pretend to be one of the young theater people laughing in cafes on 9th Avenue and spending money and just waiting to get a Broadway show and not having this like other life of how I supported myself, you know? And I was inspired when it was title show was on going to Broadway. They were moving from wherever, the Vineyard or whatever, to their Broadway production. And Susan Blackwell was interviewed talking about how she wasn't giving up her office job, even though she was starring in a Broadway show. And I was like, this is the first time I've ever heard anybody acknowledge that. And I was like, okay, from now on, I've got to live my truth. And I think that the more that that's acknowledged, you know, we propagate the myth of everybody pretending to just, you know, oh, I did Les Mis in 1995 and that's my last show, but I still live on that. No, that's not possible, you know, but everyone propagates that myth rather than owning up to what they might be embarrassed by, or, you know, it's like we're pretending to the wrong thing.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's interesting. I mean, you know, I always think, and I say this to my students, that there's only, and I know there are only so many hours in the day. And so this is a good thing. What do you do with those hours? You can't use the excuse of, you know, that person has more time than me. No, it's about managing it. And what we do takes practice. And so it also takes preparation and recovery. When you're using your physical body to tell a story about somebody trying to kill themselves, getting an ECT and screaming at the top of their lungs, it takes a toll on your body after a while. Well, there's a preparation, there's a doing execution, and there's a recovery of it. If you're talking about, well, you can't stop time. If I'm on stage and I cut myself, it's going to take time for that to heal. Even though what we create is like, as Stephen Spinella says, is an ecosystem that exists over the stage while we do it, and when we go away, it goes away, and the ghost light comes out.
Yes.
You know, but while it's there, it is alive, and it is like a living it's like a living organism. So that kind of magic, the illusion that we create, that we always strive to create anyway, is something that is such a great illusion that you know, people start to believe that anybody can do it.
What's
and that it's not an illusion.
What's a story that you would like to have seen? You mentioned PBS doing last August. To you know, what's a thing that you would like to? What was a story you would like to have seen covered? Something that you knew about in the real world, in our community, that you think you would love them to have covered, which is why you feel like they're.
Well, I mentioned about how, you know, I've been around for a while. The first time I applied for unemployment, and by the way, up until last year, I hadn't claimed it for many years because it's too complicated when you freelance. You know, generally it's too complicated. But like back in the 80s and 90s, when I first started claiming unemployment, there was no box for us to check. It's about slipping through the cracks, and then it's about wanting respect for what we contribute. And it starts in high school, and you know, in your original sort of environment where you come from, and it just never ends. Because did we not fight about how the sports teams in high school got more money than the theater department? Didn't everybody? Isn't that like a cliche?
It is cliche because it does happen, and we know.
Why is it true? I don't know why. Because
if they
who do
even
you
have
think-
a theater
who do you
department,
think
they've been
makes-
cutting them everywhere now.
Who makes the uniform? Who drew the emblem for the helmet? It's not just somebody's cousin because it happened one time. It's a real the reason why Coke is Coca-Cola, because whoever made that design is a genius. Red and white. I mean, it's not an accident. But something like Hamilton. Is everybody who really knows Hamilton, they know it took him 10 years to write this? And what kind of support that requires? I can't even imagine.
No.
The support that's required from his wife, Lynn's wife, and his family, and his community. And he's, along with Brian Darcy James, like the nicest man in show business. That doesn't help either. That doesn't hurt. I mean, it doesn't help. It helps everything. It doesn't hurt. But I mean, that kind of magic that comes from Tom Kitt and Brian Yorkie writing Next to Normal or Hamilton, that starts at a young age when we support that artist. Now I'm going to talk about this until you tell me to shut up. Because it doesn't happen by accident that Audra McDonald is Audra McDonald. Okay? She might be given this incredible thing, which we all love. She's one of my favorite artists. But what if somebody had said, you can't do that? What makes you think you're so special? You can't do that. No, 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 no. She would have quit eventually.
Well, and there is a story.
Those of us who were still floating, we had enough support, or actually more importantly, people didn't get in our way. Because that's more important than support, is that nobody gets in your way. People don't try to stop you. Because they can try to stop you they can be pretty effective at that, if they want to really stop you in your tracks.
Well, and the idea that there's no such thing as an overnight success just because the public is suddenly aware of somebody on a bigger level, such as the Broadway names that we all talk about now, or the Hollywood actors. The benefit of doing the show is we get to hear the stories of how people started off, and it comes from years and years of hard work, having to cut their teeth, having to take jobs, having to take third, fourth jobs to pay for their training, or to take that role in that play that maybe was not their favorite or holding out for the best just because they had to pay their bills. And Alice, I want to talk about how you actually got your equities card. You were in San Diego, and you were kind of doing theater in kind of an unconventional way of doing like the daily school type of theater. Waking up at, I don't know what time you had to wake up and do this full day of doing theater from school to school. I mean, that is, to me, that is some hard work, and that's cutting your teeth. And not the typical, I think my first play should be a starring role, in a big theater. This was hard work, was it not?
That's how I got my equity card, was the TYA contract. And by the way, the fantasy of a bunch of 20-year-olds or 25-year-olds sitting around at the French roast place at 3 a.m. having coffee and like they show in the movies.
We see it on all the movies. That's exactly right.
First of all, those people are not working. They're not working because they wouldn't be out in the middle of the night,
right,
talking and drinking coffee. They would be home taking care of themselves, because guess what? This is your instrument. Yeah. I'm not being presumptuous or pretentious. This is real. The business that we deal in is blood, sweat, and tears. It's a blue collar business, and people out in the world like to think that we're white collars, and we're not. We play them maybe, but
Alice, this is huge.
It's blood, sweat, and tears.
This is such a major thing.
Every time.
That theater
it's like being a cobbler or building a house.
That actors are blue collar. This should be a book. This should be huge.
If I were a drummer, at least I could put my drums in the closet every night. I don't even get to leave my instrument behind. And so this is to hijack the question that you asked me, of course, because that's one of my favorite things to do. But those kids, that's great. But I'm telling you right now, they're not going to be working. They're not working actors, because working actors, even if you're not working, you have to act like a working actor. You have to always be ready. Stanislavski's book, his first book, is An Actor Prepares. It's a hardcover, as we know. You could do an Ellery Queen on somebody, and they'd be trying to figure out what the murder weapon was, and it was his book. Like, it's a tome.
Yeah.
Okay. He wrote all these books, but guess what? In my opinion, and I read his books, Stanislavski's book, An Actor Prepares, is about the title. That's all you need to know. An actor prepares. That's your job. You have to be ready, because look, if somebody says, we want you to do something, you can't go, well, give me a couple weeks to get in shape. Hell no.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, remember in the day when they would type you out of an audition, like for something like Les Mis, because you didn't have dark hair? It's a fact. They wouldn't let you audition because you didn't have dark hair, because they'd like, well, we can't think about how you could maybe dye your hair. We can't think about that right now. So you got to be ready. If you want to audition for Les Mis in 1989, you better dye your hair first.
And you better fit in that costume. They're not gonna be body positive. They have to fit in the costume already made.
They look good in dirt. So yeah, I can't remember the question that you asked me. I took a filibuster.
No,
You said you got your equity card. You said it was a TYA contract.
Oh yeah, so the TYA
theater for young audience.
So yeah, so the theater. So if you're doing a theater for young audience contract, or you're doing a Broadway show during the night time and rehearsing another one during the day for 2 months, which I did too, no day off, then the only way to do it is to pull it in and cut your corners, and like, you're the middle of the road. Like, you don't party. There's no such thing.
Yep.
It's like, it's not because you're a square, but because you have to be ready. And so if I'm doing a TYA contract, I would wake up at 4:30, because you have to meet the van at the theater at 7. You have to be there at like 6:45. So that means you have to leave your place at about 6 o'clock, 5:30. And so you meet the van, and you ride in the van together with your fellow actors who are also on ASM contract. So it's a half actor, half ASM contract. That's what that is. And I think we made $250 a week before taxes. So you bring home about, $115 or something like that at the end of the week. You really gotta want this, because you get to the school at about 8 o'clock, and then your showtime at 8:15, and by 11 o'clock you're back at home in the bathtub, thinking about how weird that is. That's your job, what you just did.
But that is the hard work that started it all,
I enjoyed the whole thing.
That was in San Diego?
Yeah, that was at the La Jolla Playhouse.
Which is one of the best theaters in California, by the way. I've seen some of the best productions I've seen there that I've seen anywhere else. It's a great playhouse, and they try out a bunch of stuff that we later see on Broadway years later, a little differently, but it's riveting theater, especially in California. Sometimes in the LA, Southern California area, we get kind of a bad rap for our quality of theater. La Jolla Playhouse ain't having it. That is some good theater.
Playhouse on the Globe, yeah, they're definitely, like, those are...
Yeah.
I mean, every actor wants to work at... Well, the Rep, too, the San Diego Rep. We've got 3 great theaters there, I think. But the Playhouse is kind of... We did Tommy there before we brought it to Broadway. So that was one of the shows that started out there and then jumped to a Broadway stage.
I want to talk about Tommy. This is a question we got. Opening night for your first Broadway musical, which was Tommy. Do you remember what was going through your mind right before curtain was supposed to go up? Opening night, kind of every actor, musical theater actor, yearns to be on Broadway. And it's there, and it's your debut on Broadway. What was going through your mind at that point in your career?
2 things that I remember that pertain to your question, and we'll try to stay on topic. Well, I started that show, Tommy, on stage behind the curtain, because I think, like, the show started with a jitterbug scene. It started with I played Mrs. Walker, the young Mrs. Walker. Can you believe it? I was too young to play Mrs. Walker. Wow, I feel so flattering myself. So I would start on stage with some of the company members behind the curtain. And I remember, because, I'm one of those people, I still do it. If I can, while the lights are going down, before the lights go down, I peek and I look at the audience.
I love that. I love to hear that.
I always try to. I mean, I'm not going to go out of my way to go into someone's space, you know, where I think I'm going to be seen. But if I'm on stage and I know it's dark and nobody can see me, if I just go, I'll spy on them. And we used to spy on them. Well, we did during the Tommy run, because they'd be sitting there and the house lights were up. Like, it makes me laugh, makes me giggle just to think about how fun it was. Because, like, of course, one of the many brides I've played in my career, I was dressed up like a bride, and so we would like peek. Somebody would be holding it open, and I'd be peeking. And as the house lights went down, you know, the first chord of Tommy is,
Yep.
Everything on me just bounced as I said that. A really loud, like, power chord, maybe 4 of them in the beginning or something. And then it starts into the, you know, the curtain comes up. So we would watch the audience jump every night, every show, without fail, man. It was so much fun. Like, at first they were just terrified, like almost like upset, like pissed, upset, you know, and then they got over it really quickly. Like, I would have been like, that's not funny. So we used to watch the audience jump. And then I remember opening night of Tommy at the St. James during Sensation. Sherry Renee Scott and I were in the back row. We were, there were the svelte dancers in the company were in the front row, and they were wearing like really fitted little sweater sets. You know, it's supposed to be like early 60s with like belts, and it looked so slim. And then I was in the back row wearing a pleated skirt and a big turtleneck sweater, like a Fair Owl sweater. Like, I was the not svelte one in the back row. And so Sherry and I used to laugh about that, how we were put in the back row. But then she'll probably deny it. But I remember, we did this Sensation. During Sensation, we were like doing this dance move, kind of like a chassé side to side. And I remember thinking to myself, someday a guy named Alex is going to ask me what I'm thinking right now. So I had to remember. I remember thinking, wow, I can't believe I'm on a Broadway stage. You know, I used to dream maybe someday I would sing on a Broadway stage, in my wildest dreams. But I never imagined dancing on a Broadway stage. And there I was dancing in the back row, of course, in my, my frumpy outfit. Although frumpy people need love too. Doing this sachet, thinking, wow, I'm on Broadway. I'm dancing on Broadway. And somehow I was able to think about that and not, trip or forget what I was supposed to do next. Because everybody knows you're not supposed to think about anything else, because you might trip up. But somehow I managed that point. So those are the 2 things I remember about Tommy. And then I was on for Mrs. Walker a lot. I was on like week after week after week. I went on for Mrs. Walker. That was really fun. I enjoyed that because the ensemble track was really a lot of work. Like, you never sat down.
Right.
But then the Mrs. Walker track was like, well, you go on stage, you sing a little bit, you go off stage and check your makeup and hang out for a while. We didn't have phones, but, wash your hands again, scrub your nails.
Well, and it's funny.
Put your shoes on when you feel like it, and go downstairs and wait for your next cue.
I saw you play Mrs. Walker. You did a project here in Los Angeles at the Ricardo Montalban, and it was in partnership with Dolby. And the whole audience had these huge headsets that you were told to put on at the beginning of the show, because they really played with the different sound effects and the voices. And I just remember when you hit the stage, everybody went crazy. And it was so surreal seeing you on stage, but also hearing all of these sounds, created by Dolby. It was such a surreal experience. It was like modern technology with a big Broadway legend. It was such a unique, it was so LA. That's all I could think. I was like, this is so LA.
That's really good way to put it. It was very LA. I love LA. I do, but it's not New York. It's not famous for its musical theater, although there is a real strong, wonderful musical theater community there that just don't necessarily have a lot of things to do all the time. But that was really kind of strange because all of the sound from the show was piped into you know the headphones that you were wearing, right? The cans that you were wearing. And so we couldn't really hear anything. So the house wasn't really, the sound in the house wasn't primed toward what the audience was going to hear, and so the actors were like, well, whatever they pick up, they can pick up. I mean, the production value on that show was definitely but I couldn't resist though, and it was a really fun company. It was really fun, but you kind of wonder, well, I mean, is it really musical theater if they can't really hear us from here to here?
Right.
It's canned. Maybe it is, I guess. Maybe. But now I can look and see that was just maybe where they got their money from Bose. So that's a good reason.
Well, it was interesting because usually in theater, you're hearing other people around you, gasp or laugh or, with their applause. It kind of builds the energy.
Yeah,
but it
what
was,
I mean.
Yeah, it was such an isolated experience. I felt like I was by myself watching a film, and I missed out on that kind of theater experience, which is getting the energy from the audience as much as from the stage. It was odd.
That's neat that you were there, though.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you were there.
Me too. We got this question from an actress asking, were you ready for all of the attention that Sideshow got? Did you know it was going to be such a big hit, and how did you deal with this influx of coverage, appearing in all the talk shows and being the talk of the town? Did you know that was going to happen?
Well, it's funny because Sideshow became well known after the fact.
Right.
Because nobody knew about us when we were actually at the Richard Rodgers on Broadway. We were only there for about 2.5 months, and people didn't know about the show because it was the same year as The Lion King and Ragtime.
Oh, Lord.
So, but, I remember I still read reviews back then, and I read those reviews, the Times reviews for The Lion King, Ragtime, and Sideshow, and we had the best review. I'm just saying, we did. We had the best review. And so, the show closed so quickly that a lot of people didn't know we were there. And I remember going to the tickets booth with Emily a couple of weeks before we closed, just to try to get as many people. I felt like a missionary. Like, I wanted people to see the show. I just didn't want the show to disappear without as many people seeing it as possible, because I thought it was really important. So I remember it was so cold. It was about 12 degrees or something. We were standing at the tickets line just handing out little cards with our pictures on them that said Sideshow, like, here's our show. That's her and that's me. Come see our show. And I remember standing in line that goes in between shows and before the matinee and before the evening show. That tickets line was divided into two groups of people. People that were going to see Cats, and then everybody else. So, like, if they realized they were going to see Cats, you didn't even try to work on him anymore. You just moved on to the next. If the person was undecided and wasn't going to Cats, we got quite a few people to come to the show. And I still get messages from people occasionally saying, you talked me into going to see Sideshow that day, and I'll never forget. I'm really glad that we saw it. I'm such huge fans of the show later. One thing that something stood out about Sideshow. When I had my audition, Emily was already there because Emily had been working on it for a while. And my audition was for the workshop. But I could tell that, it was like the 4th or 5th workshop, at least. But I could tell that they were really looking at where this was going to go next. And so they hadn't found a Violet that was a match for Emily yet in what they wanted, the team. And Emily was Daisy. That wasn't going to change. And so in the audition, I remember standing next to her. And like, both of us, almost involuntarily, we kind of were like, whoa, and we started singing. Wow. I still have never experienced anything like that before. We sing we've sung, we all do. We sing with so many people over the decades, so many wonderful singers and great people and all kinds of different situations. But that was like, reminded me, you got some chocolate in my peanut butter. You got some peanut butter in my chocolate, where it's better together than separate. And so that kind of like happened right away. That moment of, whoa, what just happened? And then when we were singing the score, Alex, in rehearsal, we would look at each other and we would be like, can't believe how lucky we are that we get to sing this. This music is, because there was a time when nobody had heard this music before. Everybody knows Sideshow and they know Next to Normal and they know Spring Awakening. But there's a time in the world when these songs didn't exist. So when you're hearing them for the first time, it's like, it just is such an incredible feeling. I just couldn't wait to come to rehearsal and have that pile of music on my lap. Like, nobody's ever sung this before. Henry's like figuring out keys for us at the piano. I was doing this out of sight. I couldn't see. I was like this. Figuring out keys for us. I wish we would have chosen keys that were just slightly a little bit lower, just a little half step for future generations. But that's something you live in your loin. And then the revival, I just thought it was so curious because when they did the revival, the people that did it, they chose the same window of time, almost to the week, the preview opening, and then they closed. Same, and I just thought that was just crazy. That the revival would last for the same amount of time during the same part of the calendar. Oh my gosh, I just thought that was really, really weird. But what do I know? What do I know about anything? So the thing about Sideshow that I will definitely, I'll talk about it all night if you want to, because I don't have any secrets, and I'm just telling my truth. It's just my truth, and I don't speak for everybody all the time. Sometimes I feel like I need to, but with Sideshow, it was really sad because I gave everything. Well, of course, that was before Next to Normal, but I gave my everything, like my whole life, to that show, and then we just kind of watched the audiences go, get down to a small group of a few hundred in the middle of an orchestra. It was heartbreaking because, I didn't understand why, and I guess the statute of limitations has passed and I can tell my truth now, which is, why did they paint the theater black on the outside? Where were the shingles with all these incredible things that people were saying about us, reviews? Where were our faces? I was like 32 back then. I still had something going on.
Girl, you got it going on.
Emily's 6 years younger than me. So where were our faces on the side of the building?
Yeah.
Don't you think that would have brought some people in? The poster was a poster that was the back of people's heads. I'm sorry, but I'm just like, even at the time, I was like, what the? WTH didn't even exist. And I was like, what WTH is going on here? It didn't make any sense.
I remember
people were afraid of our show and they thought that it was like something to be queasy about. Like even one of the very first press pieces in a magazine, I won't say which one it was, but when we were still in rehearsal, like we just started to preview, one of the first things in the press was, "This is not for the squeamish." And I was like,
what?
What the hell is this supposed to mean? They don't know what this show's about. And so that's really heartbreaking because we put our everything into it. I mean, I've never worked so hard physically in a show.
I remember.
It was just like physical, to the wall, like balls to the wall.
I remember watching the Tony Awards, and this was my first exposure, here on the West Coast, not near Broadway, not being able to see what shows were really happening. But I watched the Tony Awards every year. My mom and I, that's what we did. And I remember, it was a year of big shows, and then it was the scene of your duet, and I remember it affected me so much that I couldn't talk. It was a breath of something so different for the time. It was a performance that was so intimate yet grand. And it was the first time I kind of felt this intimacy with a Broadway performance. It wasn't, showy. It wasn't presentational. It was very real. And I remember it affected me so much so, like, I just stopped everything I was doing. And then, of course, I had to run out and get the cast recording. Like, I just had to, because it was so effective, just that scene, because there was some magic happening and there was a performance. You proved that you can have an intimate, but also sing to the back of the row. You proved that in that performance. And it was
Longbottom, our director, he's overlooked for the miracle that he created with us, because people still think that I'm Emily. I mean, we don't even look alike. We created an illusion, yes. All of us. People still call me Emily. Okay, there were years when everybody, including family members, directors, said Emily, and I'm going, you just called me Emily, but you're forgiven if you admit that you just called me Emily. It doesn't happen as much anymore. One time somebody chased me across the street at the actors at the flea market with a clipboard going, excuse me, what's your name again? And I'm like, Alice Ripley. And he goes, oh, I thought you were somebody else. And ran across the street. I'm going, good thing I have a show to go to right now. And I don't have to chase after that person and like ask them, what the hell's wrong with you? But I mean, I guess my point is like Bob, and it starts with Henry and it starts with Henry and Bill and Manny and the people that wrote it and created and invested in the show. I mean, I think it's okay to say Manny mortgaged his house like twice because of the way he believed in Sideshow.
Manny Eisenberg, the producer.
Yes, and Sony Masterworks made an album during previews. And if they hadn't made that album, guess what? The revival wouldn't have happened, and this wouldn't happen, where an 8-year-old will walk up to me like last year with the Sideshow record and go, will you sign this? This is my favorite show. Like, yes. This kid's parents were like in their 20s when I did the show, So it's incredible. That's what we need all the time. Don't you think? That a company like Sony Masterworks can go, fuck it, man, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do this show because the music is so beautiful. We need more of that. We need that to never stop happening. And when the audience says, which is what they said at the Sideshow, the audience says, yes, yes, yes. Just everybody needs to put everything behind it.
I think that the cast recordings thing actually, not to be Pollyanna-ish, but one thing that really has changed for the better in our industry is that the albums do happen. They happen for everything. Small shows you've never heard of get a cast recording. It's partly, I think, the nature of the infrastructure of recording an album is more feasible on a grassroots level than it was. The fact that the original production of Carrie with Betty Buckley, did not get recorded is like mind-blowing to us now, because now you could have a flop off Broadway. You would still have a cast recording.
For sure.
And I think that, like you said, I mean, it really makes a difference. I mean, you talk about Sideshow having a short run and people not knowing about it while you were running, but within a matter of months, there was that big AIDS benefit Ethel Merman tribute on Broadway. It was Bette Midler, Patti LuPone, Elaine Stritch, Madeline Kahn, names, and Alice and Emily, fresh out of Sideshow, because there was the sense, and, I think I was just coming into it, but in the community, that these two are the fucking real deal. Whatever people thought of Sideshow, if they missed the show, these were two huge talents as performers that from then on were at the table. At least that was my experience of it.
I think Sideshow is a great example of like honest to God musical theater. Like it's really good musical theater too. Like it's well, the original I thought was really good musical theater. I think that, musical theater needs to you can't ever stop the show for any reason. The least feasible reason is to show off for any reason at all, like show off someone's voice or show off a character or how good this orchestration. Like nobody cares. We might act like we do, but honestly, we don't. We want to be moved, and we want to be moved forward. And when we're in the audience, or if I'm on stage, the audience is smart. I always assume that they know more about this than I do, and that there are a few steps. They've seen the show before, and they're a few steps ahead of me. My job is to make it seem like they've never seen it before. So I think that that kind of, it's kind of like a coordination act that we do that often doesn't work, and it makes it look like musical theater either is kind of most of the time not really. Maybe it's because it is such a balancing act that sometimes you hit the brass ring.
Yeah.
Most of the time you don't, because it's like Stanislavski also said that the stage is a tightrope, and everybody will see you if you fall. But if you can make it, wow, then you're like that person that walked across the Twin Towers on the wire. Like, how did he do that? We don't know. But that wasn't even an illusion, what he did. That is what, I think when you work on the stage, you are working on a tightrope, because everybody watches if you fall. The thing is, if you fall, all you got to do is get back up again, and then everybody loves you. But if you just accept defeat, then they're not going to like you for that. But I think a show like Sideshow was, people in the theater love it because it's about us. It's about the theater. It's about the people that are outcasts, people that don't have any place to belong. That's how we feel. I mean, people might think, you're blonde with blue eyes and you're white, you didn't have any problems. Well, I would say, screw you. You don't know what it was like to grow up the way I did. You don't know what it was like to be anybody who decides to devote their life to being an artist. It feels like a sacrifice. I know it's ridiculous, but it feels like you're going, I'm doing this for them to look at me, of course. I'm doing this for everybody else maybe to come together. And so we want to be acknowledged for that. We want to be appreciated. Whether you do it part-time or full-time, I don't think it matters. You can call yourself an artist if you color once a week. It's about claiming it, I think, about owning it. And the more people that own it and don't dabble, the better. I think everybody's creative. It's about how you spend the hours in the day. And you do have that's about sacrifice. I think you do have to make hard decisions sometimes. And I always, the older I get, which is like happening more faster and faster all the time now, I kind of pull it in, You draw a bath, unplug the phone, like that song from If Then.
Yeah.
You prepare for that early meeting, or you prepare to take the city on, or you prepare to, I don't know whatever it is, to take on a phone call that's waiting for you in the morning. And actors need time to practice, because we all of us strive to just make it look like we just whipped this up. That's what it's supposed to look like. And so if that illusion is too good, then maybe people take it for granted. So I think it's important to thank you so much for having me for this tonight. And thanks for everybody for giving everyone, not just me, space to, maybe make mistakes or say the wrong thing. It's okay if that happens, and especially if you then repent or maybe change your mind. I think this is a great time for all of us to go, wow, I never thought about that, or maybe I ought to rethink that, or you know what, you're right, or fuck it, let's just do it your way. I think it's a good time to start thinking in that way. You know what I mean? To be able to get off of something.
Alice, another one of your performances really touched a lot of people. I received so many comments and questions about your performance in Next to Normal. Here's a power quote I got from one of our listeners. Quote, "When I saw the show, my husband and I were dealing with his bipolar disorder and alcoholism. He was fighting the battles Alice's character was fighting. It was deeply affecting and real, and helped our family see it." He says he's one of your biggest fans, by the way. That role affected audiences on a whole different level. Not just, I loved your performance in something. It affected them. It was personal, and it was about real issues, about mental health that people were going through. What kind of pressure did that have on hitting the stage, knowing that it had such a weight and such a reality for so many people? That must have been emotionally exhausting to do that show 8 times a week.
Well, I didn't know what I was getting into. I thought I knew because I was, maybe 45 or something, and I'd been doing this since I was 14. Only this, So I really thought I knew what I was getting into, and everybody is going to think that they know what they're getting into when they start doing next. And I always tell them that you don't know. I have an advantage. If I were ever to play her again, I think that I would have a huge advantage because when I played her, I was defining her too. Like I was defining what's too much, what's too little. Because once again, I'm dealing with, I have 10 hours to get myself back into a whole egg before I throw myself in front of the bus again. It's a mixed metaphor. It's one of my favorite things to do. So, I didn't know anything about this world. I'm one of the only people that I know that doesn't take a prescription pill, at least one every day, or have access to it, or just stop taking it. I have other ways of dealing with it. I don't take pills. Diana is the character that I'm least like of all the characters I've played.
Interesting.
We're only alike because I played her. Otherwise, we wouldn't be alike at all. Diana's a mother who lost one of her kids. Sorry about the spoiler. Who's an architect who tries to kill herself several times, gets ECT and loses her memory. I don't do it. I've never done anything even remotely like any of those things. I've never even had kids. So that's pretty interesting that people confused me for Diana because I was making it up, making the whole thing up. I don't know what it's like to hallucinate. Are you kidding me? I've never even taken a Valium in my life. I never even had therapy until next to normal, and then I had to start taking therapy because, have you ever heard of The Secret, where you get what you focus on?
Yes.
So if we're dealing with this ecosystem, this metaphysical world, but we're doing it in the real world, if I'm on stage and I'm Andy Carl and I'm playing Rocky and I, get bruises, guess what? The bruises are still going to be there the next day. If you get vocal fatigue, it's still going to be, you need time to rest from that too. So Next to Normal pushed me to the limit, and I thought it was fascinating that people thought I was Diana. Then people thought I was a therapist. I'd walk out of the stage door and everybody would tell me their problems.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I just did 2 shows. I just want to go home and take a bath and eat.
And be Alice.
My feet.
Yeah.
I mean, really, because I had to tell one of the fans from Next Door one time, I'm not a therapist. I'm an actor. And I'm, bipolar is not even a thing. Like I wasn't supposed to say that either. I'm still not. But it's not even, it's a term that's used to describe a collection of symptoms. Let's all just take a couple of steps back here. When I was in Sideshow, people thought I was Emily. When I was in Next Normal, people thought I was Diana, and a whole generation had gone by. So there were these people coming up now who had never seen me do anything. And I felt like going, these people think I'm Diana Goodman. Didn't they see all these other things I did before this? Didn't they see Janet Weiss and Molly Ivors and Mrs. Walker and Joanna and Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett and They didn't see any of this stuff that I did. So it was fascinating to me because then I played Norma Desmond and I realized that I'm more like Norma Desmond than anything. But that's me. Okay, that's me. You can gossip about that. You probably don't talk about me at all, but like, who wears the sunglasses inside the house? Me. I don't have a monkey and I've never killed anybody. And I don't know how to flirt. Like she teaches me all of those things, but so many ways I'm so much like Norma Desmond that I just kind of like let myself be Alice when I'm her, which I think is really interesting, right? Does this even answer a question? It was at like 2:00 in the morning
Yes,
now. I'm
no,
so
no.
tired.
Is that why it was so important to release your own music with your band, with your own songs and your own voice? It wasn't, a musical theater album. It was clearly you.
The band started because somebody said, let's start a band. And I didn't have a reason not to because I was already a songwriter. And I'd been a singer. I've been a singer like since I was 8 or whatever. Wait, before I ever became an actor, I was a singer. So the band, that's an interest. I think that's a pretty good question because it feels good to include my own songs in any set that I do so that the audience can see me. Because when I do Miss the Mountains, I'm singing Diana, and when I sing, Ladies for Lunch, I'm doing something else, Fontaine is, but like when I sing Drive or New Kid or Romeo, like those are my songs. That's how you can kind of get to know me a little bit as opposed to the characters I play. And I think I drained my IRA twice to make it 2 albums, and they're actually starting to pay off right now because I don't know if all of you know about Sound Exchange. It's similar to TuneCore, where all of you who are listening who are players or singers on cast albums, you can get paid every time Seth Rudetsky plays your cast album in a series if you're hooked up in Sound Exchange. So make sure you look up Sound Exchange.
Sound
and
Exchange.
Get recorders that are coming to you. And you can make your own music and put it out there. And that's what I did with those songs. So, the happy ending with those songs that I wrote and recorded back in the 2000 era. I'm starting to get money from them now because they're on these digital streams that just get played every month. That's pretty cool.
It is.
Pretty cool, yeah. And the IRS knows about it. Don't worry. It's legit, but yeah, it's kind of great. That's that future investment. It is kind of like maybe saying, okay, I'm going to take 10 years to write. If it takes 10 years to write this play, it takes 10 years.
Yes.
And so when you release your own music and you put it out there and you wait for a digital stream to pick it up and start putting money in the bank account, it will pay off eventually. Eventually it will, yeah.
And just to keep at it.
You might only make 25 cents, but I mean, you would make 25 cents.
Well, I cannot believe what is it that makes you say, okay, I'll do that?
It really does come down to the song. It does. I'll often say yes after I hear the song and I decide that I want to sing it. But it has to do with, the whole approach to the project, like how the person approaches me and what's discussed and how it's discussed and, what they're open to or not open to. That kind of thing weighs in too. So you got to make a decision real quick about it. Sometimes I get my agent involved because they help me decide what to do, but usually it doesn't even get that complicated. It's just like I listen to the song, I listen to Cage song, and I also, it helps that there was somebody else involved with the project that I was like, wow, that would be cool to be on an album with her. That weighs in too. Because you want to make sure that that the material and that the project is up to what you want to work, whatever you want to work on, the standard that you want to work on. So I listen to the song, and it's got to be a good song.
What did you love most?
What
did you love most about the Cage song, which we're actually going to listen to?
I don't know. I don't know what it was. I think a big part of it was Billy, the writer, the way that he shared the song with me and the way that he approached offering it to me. I think I really I liked that a lot. And when I heard it, I knew that there were things that I had to change about it, and he went with it. But I didn't know at the time, because this was months ago that we first started talking about Cage Song. It must have been January or something. That I'm singing about myself. The Cage Song I could definitely be singing about myself. Yeah, and in that, it's beautiful because it is a concept album, meaning there are a lot of different people singing this role,
Right.
Singing the songs of Little Black Book. And so it's called Cage Song. Cage Song to me sounds like every woman who can relate to it. It's about them. It's about, being on display and not being chosen. Or being beautiful and not being seen. And I think maybe I'm just saying women because I'm a woman, but I think a lot of souls can relate to that.
I agree.
It's a really good song. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to add it to my set on July 10th when I'm at the Green Room again. It's I really think a lot of people can relate to the lyric. It's really good song. I love being associated with new writers, and always I'm so glad when somebody that I don't even know invites me to sing one of the brand new songs. That's really cool.
Well, we're going to take a listen to it. Billy Reese's from Little Black Book, Cage Song. Alice, before we let you go, tell our listeners, our audience, where you want them to find you and follow you.
Yeah, because it's past my bedtime.
I know, I'm sorry.
I can't believe it. Well, good question. I don't know where to find me. I guess social media is not a bad place to find me, because if you send me a mustard message, if you send me a message, I'll find you and write you back.
Yeah.
So Ripley the band, that's my handle for Twitter,
Instagram.
And Drastic Alice is my Facebook page, and Pink Unicorn the movie, we didn't really get to talk about that, but that's going to be out pretty soon, and if you don't like Alice, you won't like it, because it's just me all the time. I'm the only actor that you'll see. I do everything all the time. So it's all about my wig. So that will be coming up soon. And then I don't really know. We've got our gigs. I've got some band gigs, but we're always waiting for that next show to come along. So I'm waiting for that. Can't wait. I'm excited.
Well, I can't wait.
That at some point we're going to be doing theater again. Yeah.
And I can't wait. The Pink Unicorn. We're heading into Pride season, and you gave a great quote about doing the show version, because you're reprising your role. But you talked about you learned what the difference between being an ally is as compared to being an advocate, and playing this role kind of helped with that. And I just love that quote. So I cannot wait to see the film adaptation.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I feel that's like being an advocate is more about like telling somebody, shut up, shut up, you got to listen to me, because I have something to say. Just speak up for somebody, I think. Advocacy is a big, Pink Unicorn sounds like somebody speaking up for somebody. When we were making the movie, I felt like we were standing up, we were fighting for some kids. That's what it felt like. Like, by doing this, we're fighting for some kids. We're going to get bullied otherwise.
Alice, thank you so much for spending your late evening with us. It's been such a treat, and we were able to talk about a few pressing issues that are affecting our artistic community. And on behalf of all the other artists out there, I really do appreciate that. And Ben, tell our audience where you want them to find you and follow you.
Ripley the band.
Yes.
I'm just Ben Rimalower on all socials.
And it's certainly a treat, Ben. Love and adore you from the West Coast. All right, we're going to let you go, and we are going to listen to the Cage song from The Little Black Book. And that's it for us. It's always a grab bag of fun every weekend on The Rocks. Big thank you to our fabulous guests, our engineer, Kurt, our intern, Alexis Mendez, our researcher, Mama Rose. Please like, share, subscribe, so we can continue bringing you this fabulous program for free. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay sexy, stay tipsy. And here's your sneak peek of Alice Ripley as Heidi Fleiss in the concept album Little Black Book by Billy Reese. Stream the full musical today. We'll see you next week.
I've been singing a Cage song for years. I keep singing a Cage song, but nobody hears. People pass, they stand there and sing, but nobody listens. Listen to me. I've been making the song fit my voice, trying to make it sound like it was always my choice. But the song is bitter and broken. It hurts me to listen. The music burns like an ember and stabs right through like a knife, chipping away at the surface of someone's life, or what should have been someone's life. I've been singing a Cage song alone. Same familiar Cage song the world once had known. But they forget and disappear, so no one remembers. Remember that I'm here.
something better for myself.
I was starting
This
to
has
get
been another episode of On the Rocks. Tweet me and slide into my DMs on Twitter and Instagram at On the Rocks On Air. Find everything On the Rocks for free at OnTheRocksRadioshow.com. Subscribe, like, review, and share. Until next week, stay fabulous.